Please tell us about yourself, what your interests and hobbies. I am Jerwin B. Agsunod, 43 years old and a licensed professional teacher. I hold a degree in Bachelor of Science in Biology. I also hold units in Bachelor of Secondary Education. I completed a master's degree in education and 42 units toward a Doctor of Education degree. I passed the licensure examination for teachers in the year 2002, and I am fan of reading books and surfing into the internet. I am an adventurous individual and I love learning new cultures and meeting new people. Are you involved in extracurricular activities that you could coach or supervise? Yes. Our school always assigned me to coach athletics, science quiz bee, science investigatory project, and even scouting. Why did you decide to become a teacher for the subject for which you are applying for? I decided to become a biology or a science teacher because it is my dream to share my craft and expertise to my students. There are a lot of experiment and investigatory project in this subject, and I feel like I am solving a real life problem every time I perform an experiment. I want my students also to become an efficient and productive citizens of the future that is equipped with knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and make ready to meet the changes and challenges of the 21st century. Are you currently employed as teacher? Yes, I am currently employed as secondary school teacher. How many hours per day do you teach and how many days per week? I am teaching 8 hours a day, 5 times a week. Describe your teaching experience. What subjects have you taught and at what grade level? As to my teaching experiences, I am currently employed in the Department of Education, teaching science for grade 7 and grade 8 up to the present, that is for more than 11 years. I love working with students, especially in our science investigatory projects, and showing the beauty of this subject through discovery and experimental approaches made me realize the value of teaching students based on global standards. Describe other work experiences you have beside teaching. I am a grade 7 curriculum chairman in our school. I am also in charge of conducting regular meeting with the parents. I am also in charge of the faculty development for grade 7 teachers in our school. Have you worked in the United States? If so, when, where, and why? No, I have not worked in the United States before. What do you hope to be doing professionally 5 years from now? In the next 5 years, I would like to be recognized as an expert in this sector. This job will sure provide me with a golden opportunity to do the same. 5 years ago, I wanted to be where I am today. So 5 years from now, I want to set up a realistic goals for myself and also for my organization. If I were to talk to several of your colleagues, how would they describe you personally? My colleagues would describe me as an enthusiastic and intelligent science teacher. How do you prepare to teach your lessons? I prepare my lesson by having my daily lesson plan, and sometimes we call it daily learning log. I also read a lot, and aside from textbook, I used to read other references and even search in the internet. What would your lesson plans include? In our lesson plan under the K-12 program, we include the content standard, performance standard, and learning competencies. It also includes the objective. Included also are the 7 E's, that is elicit, engage, explore, explain, elaborate, extend, and evaluate. Then, the mastery level, remarks, and lastly, the references. I will talk more on the 7 E's. First is elicit, meaning finding out students' prior knowledge in a particular topic. And I usually do it through a short quiz. For example, in my biology lesson where my students might be investigating whether light is needed for photosynthesis, I would test knowledge of photosynthesis, respiration as part of my short quiz. Engage. In this stage, raise the big question and introduce new learning. Following on from example, I might ask, do plants need light to make food? I might give them a brief explanation or some information about photosynthesis to help them make a prediction to support the explore stage. During the explore stage, students should be given opportunities to work together following the initial input I had provided. Again, referring to my example, student would then undertake some practical investigative work to answer the big question. It can be done through experimentation. Following the explore stage is explain. In here, I would choose what students had discovered to help them build the concept or knowledge further. Using my example, I would draw out the findings from the experiment and ask students to compare to predictions. Elaborate. In here, I will let my students work independently. Using my example a while ago, my student would answer the big questions. Does a plant need light to make food? And then I will let them explain their answer using evidences and scientific knowledge. Then extend. In here, my students will apply or extend the concepts and skills in new situations. This might be interpreting data from other similar experiments. Finally, evaluate. This is to assess students' learning on the lesson. And it can be done through questioning or a quiz, or it can be in the form of self-reflection. Of course, after the lesson, I should know if how many of my students understood the lesson and write possible remediation to those students who didn't understood the lesson well. Think about a class that you have taught recently. Talk about two of the teaching strategies or methods that you use. The two methods I usually employed in my subject and I think is very effective were hands-on learning and role-playing. Hands-on learning is the best teaching method invented so far that involves the active participation of students to experience scientific concepts than to just have an audience view. For example, I will use a spring telephone to teach about sound and communication, or a notch pencil to teach rotation, motion, or anything similar. Next is role-playing. This innovative method is becoming an integral part of science education as students can intellectually and physically involve through activities while learning new concepts. For example, a group of students can take the role of atoms or molecules to study a chemical reaction. What method do you use to grade or evaluate your students' progress? In our country, since we adopt the K-12 program, we have a common or universal grading system for each subject. For science, we graded or evaluated our students' progress through their written works, that is 40%, performance 40%, and quarterly assessment 20%, a total of 100%. If you use technology in your teaching, describe how you use it. Specifically, discuss your experience using a smart board and ways that you incorporate it into your lessons. I use technology in my teaching because I find it very easy to teach my lesson. And most of the time, I use PowerPoint presentations, and sometimes I use Smart TV in case my students have to watch educational film to supplement my explanation on a certain topic. And to be honest, I never had an experience teaching using smartboard because our school cannot afford to buy one. But I am willing to learn how to use it, especially so that in the United States, each classroom had a smartboard. If you have students who are noisy or non-attentive, share 2 ways you get them to be quiet and concentrate. What I usually did is that I stopped from explaining, took a deep breath, and tried to remain calm. It's natural to overcome with frustration, resentment, and anger. But when you become less rational and your agitation becomes contagious. I also try to set a positive tone and model an appropriate response, even if it means I must take a few moments to compose myself. This will give the misbehaving student a chance to respond positively by explaining not only what he or she is doing wrong, but also what he or she can do to correct it. Describe the most difficult problem you have had to deal with as a teacher and how did you solve this problem. The most difficult problem I had is balancing the different learning needs of students. Every student who walks through my door is different. Some struggle with science and need extra help. Some learn really well when they read the text, and others when they listen to a lecture or when they work the problems out on their own. There is a built-in way to handle this challenge that all teachers use, and it is called differentiation. So when I teach ionic compounds, for example, I have the students take notes, read a few paragraphs, use buttons to simulate how electrons move, and practice it in pairs and by themselves. I put 4 or 5 different learning styles into one lesson so that the student who learns best by reading isn't left out. Neither is the student who learns best by moving around. Give one example to show that you are a flexible person and that you can make changes to your teaching and methods if that is necessary. As a teacher, I always say, no 2 days are alike. Lesson plans are an important part of the learning process. However, it is not uncommon for a meticulously mapped out lesson to deviate wildly from what was originally planned. This is no bad thing. Students are unpredictable by nature after all. With so many minds involved, curiosity and ability can lead the topic of discussion in a totally different direction than what has been laid out in a lesson plan. This organic movement helps facilitate learning, as it allows students to naturally explore subjects through their own questions, ideas, previous knowledge, and level of intelligence. And if you avoid flexible teaching, instead sticking to your lesson plan and rigidly enforcing the teaching you envision for the lesson, you might get out the information that you wanted to. Is there anything you would like to add about your qualifications that we may not be aware of? I have been working as an educator in the Department of Education for more than 11 years. I am passionate about learning new skills and I have completed a number of training courses. I work really very hard, which greatly contributed to me in becoming most outstanding teacher up to the international level. And only last February 2020, I was awarded as outstanding secondary teacher in Bangkok, Thailand. I am very much eager to make full use of this in a larger working experience, environment. Have you spoken to your family about going to the United States to teach? Is there anything such as a family member that might object your leaving home? Are you aware that your family members may not join you here until approximately 4 to 6 weeks after your arrival? With regards to my plan of teaching in the United States, my family were very supportive of my plan. They helped me all throughout my journey, and my family, especially my wife, is also aware that she cannot join me 4 to 6 weeks after my arrival in the United States. Do you understand that PHASES is a 5 years program, and after 5 years, you must return to your home country? Do you agree to this? Yes, I do understand and accept that PHASES is a 5 year program, that after 5 years, I must return to my country, and I agree to this.